I don't know about you guys, I can't take this card anymore. I really think Greninja needs to be banned or reworked in Pokemon Pocket, or they need to add some sort of counterplay to the card. It has been meta relevant ever since Mythical Island and has only gotten extremely more powerful with the introduction of the rare candy item. Yo, what's going on today, guys? We're back here for another meta report. So we had the 4th Pocket Mass tournament, and this is the one that we talked about last time where Greninja was actually going to be banned because Greninja is actually the problem and not Suicune. How do we know that for sure? Well, we can go to the metagame and you can see there is not a single Suicune deck because Suicune is only broken when you do combo it with that Greninja. And already, just by looking at this metagame, and looking at just all these decks, you can see without Greninja existing, there is such a diverse meta. Once again, no surprise because back in Wisdom of the Sea and Sky, we had a diverse meta before Suicune and the Greninja pair became online, and take away the Greninja and the Suicune is extremely balanced. So I just don't understand why some people still would like to say it is Suicune. Obviously, Suicune is an extremely good card, but it is Greninja at the end of the day that makes that card that strong. So most played deck Dartina, I'm not even surprised by this. I thought Dartina was actually going to win the event just because Dartina always ends up winning. Actually didn't win the event. We had a couple Flareons, whether that be the Jolteon or the Parafflareon, who knows, too many to look at. Buzzwole, not surprised, Buzzwole really thrives without Greninja being in the format. And then we had stuff like the Darkrai Arceus slash Daycare decks. We had a bunch of Espeons because Espeon can come back. Couple Guzzlords, couple of the Pichu, or not Pichu, but the Pikachu Tapu Koko. Of course the Zords are going to come back. Some more Tapu Koko Pikachu is like a different variant. We had some Arceus Pichus. We had some Naganadel Guzzlords. We had some Daycare with the Snorlax. So we had like the two different versions of Daycare. So we had like the Daycare version, which is Darkrai Arceus, and then like the Nursery, which is like the Tyrogue Snorlax one. And then like even stuff like Savali, Rampardos. And this is obviously just Wiss. Obviously there's like a 380 person tournament. There's going to be a lot of diversity. We can look at the top cut data, and just by looking at the top cut data, still we had such a diverse meta where like for example, if Greninja wasn't banned, number 1 would just be Suicune, number 2 would be Darktina, and then like number 3 would just be like 2 or 3 decks, like, or like maybe even 4 depending on maybe like if a Flareon pops off or something. But you can see here that it's actually diverse without Greninja existing. Flareon actually ended up making top cut the most for a pretty good win rate, as well as Buzzwole, the Darktinas, the Daycares, the Guzzlord Naganadels, because Guzzlord Naganadel was really good in the Wisdom format, and obviously it wasn't because Suicune, you can't place on a lot of stuff without Suicune being, you know, super meta relevant. We actually did, I'm pretty sure, have one Suicune deck actually down here. Yeah, it was actually Suicune Tentacle, bro. We can definitely look at that in the future. And then we even had stuff like, dude, like, just look at all these decks that made top cut. It's extremely cool. Obviously, it's going to be very hard to look at every single deck in the top cut, but I do just want to mention, like, obviously I think the main purpose of this video is that Greninja needs to be banned. Greninja is a problem. It is not Suicune, and I'm very glad. You know, I think Pocket Mads, he knows this game. He's been around for the TCG. He knows what is broken and what's not broken, and I really like the fact that he could acknowledge that it is actually Greninja being the problem when a lot of people do think it's Suicune. Because like, yeah, we've had Suicune in past formats where like obviously like even like Sylveon Greninja, it wasn't as dominated as Suicune, but it was still an annoying deck. It's just like Greninja is the problem, and that card just has to go. It is way too broken with all the buffs that it has got over the months and new sets. And yeah, let's look at the standings, and we can just like see some new decks. We can just look at some of them. I will definitely link the tournament if you guys do want to look at all these fun decks in the comments. So if you want to check out everything, you can go there. But yeah, let's just move our way to the standings. Okay, we made our way over to the standings. We can see here that the top 3 was actually very funny, bro. It's actually a bunch of Arceus flashbacks to Travel Light, obviously a different form of Arceus without the Dialga. Although I guess you could technically say that the Nursery is kind of very similar to Dialga, except you have like a Squishy Ramper and is way more turbo because you do have that going first potential, or you just have the attack right away if you do go second. However, Doug's ended up winning. This is going to be a Darkrai Arceus list. However, it still does have a Snorlax. I did watch this on stream. We can take a look real quick. Yeah, essentially just another form of the Nursery deck. This one's not playing Smoochum and only has one Snorlax to be able to fit both Cape, Double Red, and a Repel. I'm assuming because I think Snorlax was mainly used in the Suicune matchup, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not obviously the most knowledgeable on the Nursery deck. I'm assuming because Suicune was going to be less played, they just chose to only have one Snorlax in case they didn't want to go into it. And or they just wanted like another attacker. So I'm assuming that's why. They also probably, like I said, wanted to fit like the giant cape and like the double red. So yeah, just another take on the nursery deck. Really cool to see and make or end up winning, because it's a deck that has been played a lot, especially online, but I wouldn't say it's having the best performances in these tournaments where Suicune is legal, because sometimes the Suicune can't sit up right with like the Greninja. It could easily destroy that deck, because, you know, this deck does like to place a lot of basics. So kind of cool to see this actually performing when Greninja is gone. Next up, second place, shout out to Oho or Ohu. Hopefully I'm pronouncing one of those right. If not, I am mistaken, or I'm sorry. This one is just the Oricorio Zera with the 1 Arceus, the 1 Coco, the 1 Pichu, and the 1 Shaman. So Shaman, I'm going to be so honest, I do not know what that Shaman is going to do with Greninja banned. I don't know what that 10 extra HP is really impacting. Maybe it can be very useful in Oricorio. I guess it's probably Oricorio for Dartina. Never mind. That's probably what it's used for. I just remembered. Anyways, they were playing the double hand rip with the 1 silver, 1 red card down here, and the 1 E cord to be able to go with an Oricorio or a Zera in the active, put the E cord on so that Arceus will be able to get charged up, or the Coco will be able to do that 90 attack right away once something does faint in the active spot. Cool to see you get second place. We have a similar deck in third place. Shout out to Meta or Hercules, whichever one you do go by. It's not playing Tapu, just playing 2 Arceuses and no Shaman. Has a PCO instead. But it's a very similar deck. We have a couple Flareons, you know, but we already like see. Let's look at the decks that are kind of like spiced that we haven't seen in a minute, bro. Like we have this Buzzwole by Mr. Wriggler. We could definitely check out that their list. So this is one of the ones that are playing the 7 Pokemon package with the 1 Cortana, 2 Pheromosas. They have the double Cyrus. They have the double Leaf Keep and the Rocky Helmet. 1 Erica is definitely interesting. Maybe because, you know, no Greninja, you don't need the Erica. I guess the only thing you're really worried about is like other Pheromosas. Like I have seen 1 Erica builds that has been popular back in the day. I was never a big fan of it, obviously, but obviously it made freaking top 16 or whatever they made. I could definitely double check that. I'm pretty sure it was top 16. Yeah, they did lose, or they did at least make it to top 16. Obviously they made it as a good deck list at the end of the day. But you don't really need, I guess, that red or these Guzma at the end of the day, because you have that Rocky Helmet. So I guess they just chose to do this over. Because I'm expecting there's like specific reasons. Obviously I have no clue and I'm kind of just making shit up. But yeah, very interesting Buzzless, bro, because we haven't seen like the 7 version in a while with Cortana. But I guess Cortana makes sense because it can punish the baby Pokemon, which I'm assuming they were expecting to be largely played with Greninja gone, as Greninja is like one of the best counters to baby Pokemon because, you know, 2 pings. Anyways, congrats on top 16 once again, bro. We had a Dragonite end up making top 14. Narumi was actually one of the previous winners of the Pocket Match tournament of Suicune. So it's kind of funny that they ended up just playing Dragonite compared. It's kind of for me, it's ironic that they like play the best deck in the game, which is like very consistent, and then you see them again making top 16, which is still very impressive with a deck like Dragonite, which is very inconsistent. Obviously you do have the Sylveon package, which they are playing, but it's nothing new that we haven't seen. Shout out to my Eternal Brat for making top 32. So apparently they ended up losing to 4 heads flip on a Snorlax. They did tell me that in DMs, and they lost to the Charizards, but they were playing like the more pure nursery deck with the Smoochum. This is the one I featured on the YouTube video, so if you want to check out some ranked games with that, I'll plug it myself. But yeah, this like list is pretty popular. It's like one of the ones that like both Eriko and Jimbo have been using, those YouTubers with, you know, I've chatted them out multiple times, and yeah, it's just a deck that is good in this meta. And with Suicune gone, it's just even probably better. Now, like, let's look at some actual sauce. We have the Bricks, bro, who was also a previous Pocket Match winner, I'm pretty sure. If not, he won some other big tournament, but I'm pretty sure it was either Pocket Match or something else, like Froggy X. Honestly, I'm not 100% certain, but they're playing Nagano, bro. We just got to see what the tech cards they're using, because you guys know I love this deck. So they're on the 2 Nahelga over the 2 Celesteela, which, you know, makes sense. That was more popular in Wisdom. And it's literally the most freaking basic one. It's the Sabrina Cyrus Mars combo, the double Rocky Helmet over the Poison Barb, which people started putting on a couple seasons ago. Instead of, you know, like traditionally you played the Poison Barb like back in stuff like ED Crisis, but Rocky Helmet has been way more popularized back in like the Eevee's Grove, so it's like Wisdom meta. So it makes a lot of sense. Love this deck, dude. It's the one that it's probably it's honestly one of my most favorite decks just in the game back in the day. And it's probably the deck I would have probably brought to the tournament. Besides, it was either this or Espeon that I would have brought if I was able to play in it. Obviously, I had to work, so I wasn't able to. But I love Nagano, bro. It's good seeing this perform again. And I think this is actually one of those decks that might have more meta relevancy with the megas, because I feel like the poison damage plus Guzz can just be extremely broken. I'm hoping Suicune, is the meta relevant, so this can come back in the meta. At the end of the day, I think Suicune is actually still going to be around, so it's probably going to be hard. But it might be one of those situations back in ED Crisis where like we play Nagano and might have a losing matchup in the Suicune, but it might beat every other deck in the format, so you might just have to take that 1L. Espeon didn't get as high as I thought with Suicune being gone and Espeon being so good in Wisdom. I really thought that it would have the potential to be able to make a top 8 at least, but ended up at 26, so we can check out that deck list by going to be Madai Made High. I am 100% pronouncing this wrong, dude, so once again I do apologize. I'm not the best at names. Okay, so this is interesting. So it's obviously like the classic Espeon. They are playing continuous steps, which is extremely questionable over Find a Friend. And instead of something like Red Card and Mars, they are playing double EV Bag Repel. So they have two forms of, swapping out cards. I don't know how I personally feel. I feel like at least a Mars over maybe second EV Bag or Repel. Obviously, they were probably playing these cards for a very specific reason. I just don't know that. But anyways, dude, still top 32 of Espeon. Definitely cool to see. Now at the bottom, dude, we have stuff like the Raikou Magnezone. We just have some other decks. There is one deck I do want to look at that ended up making top cut. Well, there's two of them. There's actually Lycanroc Lucario, which is extremely interesting. So shout out just to make top cut of Lycanroc, dude. Lycanroc is personally one of my favorite Pokemon, and just to see it do good is really cool. So they have two of the they have one Knight and then one of the EX Pokemon, and they just have Lucario, to buff the damage of fighting types, and then the two Tyrogue. So I'm assuming the goal for this deck is to have Tyrogue in the active spot, and then charging up a Rockruff, basically to go into the Lycanroc EX if you do go, or if you go second to try to find the Knight version so you can on your second turn do 100 damage. Yeah, I'm assuming that's basically the goal of the deck. You get the Lucarios in the back to do that additional damage. And they have item boosters like Red. They have Guzma for get very like Rocky Helmets or Giant Capes, etc. Even a Giovanni with the X-Speed red card down here. So it's just cool to see. Lycanroc is a card that has really never seen too much meta success, if any at all. So definitely shout out to making top cut. That's all I gotta say, man. It's really cool to see these decks like this make top cut. Just as a fan of Pokemon Pocket, like you guys like my thing. I'm like actually just like playing up like, oh, you're just trying to find a deck to talk about it. Like, no, I really think something like this is cool to see making top cut. Obviously, you made top cut, did not go far at all because it lost right away. But just the fact that it did end up making it is just a really cool achievement, dude. And so I'm pretty sure the top cut for this meta was actually cut off at either 68 for 69, because it did say that this Tentacruel player ended up making top cut. It is the only Suicune deck, so let's just look at the deck list because it's extremely funny. It's two Nahelgos, two Suicunes, the Mantikes obviously that charge it up, and then the two Tentacruels. If you guys don't know this Tentacruel, because I don't know either until I looked it up earlier when I did see it, 110 HP, 2 energy, 50 damage for the poison. So if you have a Nahelgo on the backline, this card will be doing 70 damage. Obviously, if out will be doing 60. And then if you have 2, it will be doing 90 for 2, which is kind of crazy. It's just definitely a fun deck. You'd have the Poison Barbs, obviously, to combo with it. And you are probably playing Pure Water. I'm assuming these guys are literally only for the additional poison / maybe sometimes to take a hit. Then you have the one Irida, the one Leaf, the one Mars, and the one Cyrus. It's just funny. Out of all the Suicune decks I imagined, I was expecting like maybe like a Suicune Gyarados, but a Suicune Tentacruel actually ended up making top cut, which is extremely funny. So once again, shout out to Pop Month Pop Month from Canada for end up doing this. We could look at the matches. Okay, they had the Guzz bracket and the Pikachu bracket. So it's funny, they ended up losing the Espeon in top 128. So I'm not too surprised. I don't really see how this deck is going to be able to deal with Espeon without Giratina, because all that damage you are doing is not going to add up. I'm going to be 100% honest. So honestly, for me, it makes a lot of sense why they did lose the Espeon. Very unfortunate role, as there wasn't that many Espeons in top cut as I imagined. Anyways, that does it for like the tournament stuff, and I think that just does it for the video. Like I said, let me know what your thoughts. I really do think Greninja needs some sort of counterplay, whether that's a Pokemon that has the ability that on the bench where your Pokemon don't take ability damage. That is also a way, I've also mentioned this in the past, there's also a way they could nerf both Greninja and Darkrai to make both those cards less meta relevant, as those cards have existed for a long time. Anyways, if you guys have some other opinions, let me know in the comments below. I think that does it for the video. Like I said, peace out. Have a lovely day as always.